All right, guys, welcome to May 31st pre-recorded Zoom, our last one for the month. Very, very interesting. A couple of things I'm going to cover, but won't be too much. But kind of where we are right now with DXY. It's a bit conflicting, I will say. We're going to talk about this move with AUDUSD just because that was a scenario that I had brought up even last night. But with you, and obviously if we talk about the XY, it's only the inverse of EURUSD. So we had pretty much covered last week, right, that we had wanted a pullback, we didn't get it. We got the immediate reaction. And as a consequence of that, you could see that there's not necessarily a ton of momentum here in comparison to, let's say, here. So we understand that our internal technically is still bullish, right? But we are bouncing off of a monthly POI, and it looks like we're about to close a very, very bearish candle. Does that completely change my bias? No, but it's definitely something that's very alerting for that bullish bias, right? And it's only going to manifest if, right, we continue, right, the bearish structure. So this bullish move, no matter where we go, is going to be very, very significant, because this is going to be the dictator of whether we're going to take out previous highs and continue higher, or if that is the sign of reversal and this is where we're going to pretty much reverse and start giving us a lot of downside. So as of now, there really hasn't been too much occurring, as you can see from the new day open, right? Based on new week open, I'm sorry, right? We have pretty much taken out lows and have now created a bullish reaction. And this is significant because that doesn't necessarily mean that I was trading EURUSD, right? Because although we are still technically bearish, right, you can say that the invalidation for that continuation perspective is here, and that was already met. So technically that is a sign of the beginning of a pullback, and it looks like we want to, right, give a internal reaction, right, based on the internal liquidity grab. And we can see that there is a bearish move beginning to play out, right? But if we start to zoom in, right, it looks like this high is about to be ran, and I mean by this immediate high here. So we have a pretty much high momentum move, we have inefficiency left over, we then take out the newly formed high, and looks like we're now about to form a bullish liquidity grab. So if this is going to continue lower, you would need obviously your bearish transition right here. But nothing too appealing here in my opinion. There was a nice London move that I was looking at this morning, and that was just after the pullback had pretty much created a reaction based on the intraday low being taken out. You know, we have our mitigation, and that's what's generated the move to the downside. But that's not really too appealing for me. What's appealing for me is definitely AUDUSD. This is something that I pointed out yesterday on Zoom. Let me pull that up for you guys. I just said AU, right? And I'm gonna look at the exact time when let's see. All right, and this was at 8:51 p.m. The reason why that's important is because this is what I was looking at 8:51 p.m. and that was around here, right? This is what we're seeing. We're in that POI that we had pretty much acknowledged on Friday, right? Which is we wanted to see what would happen in this general area, and based on what I had been seeing, right, we tap structure. This isn't too important, but this is what I was seeing yesterday, that there was a tap and there is an immediate liquidity grab with momentum. So when we're at this point, I'm saying, this is a sign of a very clear transition, right? And the criteria for me, right, because this is technically Asia session, the only way a trade would be triggered would be if I have a limit and my invalidation is my SL, which is pretty much the scenario at hand. because there was a 15-minute POI there, which is relatively the same as the 5-minute POI, I'm sorry, but this was pretty much the criteria that I was looking into: higher time frame POI, overall structural disruption, internal liquidity grab, and the only way that this would hit, or the only way this would continue, is if we were to bounce here and our invalidation was not met. Right now, whether we bounced here or whether we bounced here, right, the invalidation is the same. And as you can see, it was a perfect top, and that's pretty much where we are seeing that move now. And it looks like it does want to continue. If we're looking at the M30, this is really where we are right now in this current mitigation. All right, yes, there's a bullish engulfing, so that's something to be aware of. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. There is that engulfing. That engulfing is a bit alerting, especially with DXY. As you can see, I believe it was M30 as well. There is a bearish engulfing even after the bullish reaction on an inefficiency. So this is a bit alerting, only because I'm curious to see whether this is going to be the beginning of a failed flag pattern, which would basically, I would like to see what would happen from here. But right, we could still really, not necessarily trust that bullish bias, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do continue that bullish bias, right? So just very, very cautious here. I'm really curious to see whether we're going to fully create a liquidity grab or if we're going to just continue higher. And with AU, that would, pretty much be the exact same thing, where we see the momentum come into play. The momentum is kind of what's giving me the biggest alert of what we could see. Same thing with EURUSD, is that momentum there. So that's going to be very interesting. It's pretty much going to be the same thing for all three pairs. But yeah, I mean, it looks like AU gave us that bounce that we wanted, but now it's a matter of seeing whether we're going to see the follow through or not. But yeah, with that being said, quick zoom, nothing much to cover outside of that, but be wary, today is the last day of the month, so definitely look into your monthly closures. Very bullish closure, very bullish closure, very bearish closure, right? And that's going to be, a good telltale to see how we could possibly react for the next month, right? But like I said, the internal has to align with that. But yeah, with that being said, a quick zoom today. I hope you guys are having a great week, and I'll see you guys on Friday.